Hey guys, what the fuck is up you guys? My name is eManDan642 and welcome to my first high quality video in a long ass time. My most popular video on this channel is my review for the Alabasta saga of One Piece. I'm not sure if I'll be doing long reviews like I did anytime soon, but I would still like to talk about things. And with the recent finish of the grandest and longest One Piece arc and my recent catching up to One Piece, I thought, what better time to rank every arc? I will be ranking all canon 31 arcs of the manga and anime, as well as 2 filler arcs that I've watched. And of course, there will be spoilers. The first filler arc and the only one I've watched aside from G8. The only reason I did watch this arc is because I didn't even know it was a filler arc until I watched it. This arc is incredibly forgettable and mediocre. What I do remember from it is this little girl and this dragon, and the Marines were after the dragon, and there was this Marine named Eric. I don't remember the specifics. I do remember this one cool scene where the Straw Hats are fighting this line of Marine ships though. Even at its worst, One Piece has never been bad. And most people consider this arc to be the worst canon One Piece arc. This is the most filler canon arc. The only arc that you could just completely skip over and not miss anything. Except for Aokiji's introduction. That was very good and important. The rest of the arc is alright. Foxy is annoying and dumb. The competition is fun at times and not very fun at others. It had some funny moments in typical early One Piece fashion, but aside from a few good moments, this arc is just alright. This is the only arc that I took a break during. Syrup Village is okay. My biggest problem with early One Piece is there are a lot of arcs and most of them are just alright. There's nothing that good about Syrup Village except for Usopp's introduction. Captain Kuro is supposed to be super smart and tactical, which is quite cool, but his plan is kinda dumb. I like Usopp a lot, but his introduction was weaker than the other Straw Hats, and his backstory wasn't anything that good. There's not much to say about this arc. It's 2 episodes long. It was fine. I like Laboon and Crocus, and Vivi was introduced. And the arc was pretty funny, but what actually happened was alright, nothing super special, especially for being the first arc in the Grand Line. Same kind of problem as in the previous arc, short and not much happened. Again, a pretty funny arc, and Broke Works was introduced. Mr. 5 and the Umbrella Girl were alright. Zoro beating up the 100 Broke Works guys was cool, and Fat Luffy was funny. The arc that started it all. Good introduction arc. Shows what kind of series One Piece will be for the most part. The problem with the early arcs is that One Piece is a series that is at its peak after a lot of build-up. It takes a long time for the amazing arcs to start. So these early arcs are so much more tame and simple, with not much depth. Still good, but not great. Romance Dawn did a good job at showing the original 3 Straw Hats and the Marines, as well as Luffy's backstory. Continuing the story with the second arc, this arc introduces Buggy, the first pirate villain, not counting Alvida, and the first Devil Fruit user, aside from Luffy, which was big back then. We understand somewhat more of the world of One Piece with Devil Fruits and pirates. Buggy is not that good of a villain, honestly. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy, but when he is in his villain role, it doesn't quite work out. Orange Town is another alright arc. This is when things start to actually happen in arcs. For the first time, we see giants and get hints at Elbaf. Mr. 3 and the Paint Girl are definitely better villains than the previous Broke Works members. Galdino is nothing great, but he is actually a threat. This arc is funny, good Sanji moments, and good Usopp moments, of course. This arc feels too high because nothing really happens. And it's just the Straw Hats meeting up again, but when they do, it is awesome. This is a good way to reintroduce the characters after a time skip. But the stuff with the fake Straw Hats wasn't that great, and I do not like Caribou. The last arc of the first saga. I really like the ending to this arc. When Luffy is about to be executed and he is saved by Dragon, it's very intense. When the original Straw Hats have their what we are fighting for moment, loved it. And of course, Smoker. Sadly, he's barely had any time to shine, but I still really enjoy seeing him. This arc felt like a turning point, evolving the story, a teaser for what's to come, if you will. This is a bigger, longer arc than the lower ones, so it's hard to compare. This arc has some good things about it, but is overall pretty weak for a saga arc. The worst main villain in One Piece. Not a very good introduction to the new world. Felt like just another One Piece arc, but not as good. I like the location of Fishman Island. I like the backstory for the most part. I like Jinbei a lot. I like the reveal of Neptune, and I liked Luffy declaring war on Big Mom. The rest, I did not like. Hody Jones is definitely the worst main villain in One Piece. He added nothing new to the story. He was just humans bad, hates humans. Nothing interesting about him. Arlong was definitely a better villain way back in East Blue. And the other villain, Vanden Dekker, was even worse. He's just creepy and annoying. The rest of the characters and story was not very good. Fishman Island was a rather boring arc. I like this arc for two reasons. Chopper is great, and his introduction and backstory are great. And the other one is a scene in particular. It's the scene where Luffy is carrying an unconscious Nami and Sanji up to the mountain. I know I've talked about it before, but I still love the scene. The mountain scene has more weight and stakes to it than many other arcs. The rest of the arc is alright. I like snowy places, so I like this location. But the really bad thing about this arc is Wobble, the villain. One of the worst in One Piece. He is annoying and a jackass all around. While Foxy is just annoying and stupid, and Hody Jones is boring and forgettable, this guy gets on my nerves. This was the first One Piece arc that I actually really liked. This is where we met Sanji, my favorite character. I like the concept of the restaurant on the sea. I really like Blue Hand Jim and Sanji's backstory. I love Mihawk's introduction and his fight with Zoro. I even like Don Krieg somewhat. He was the first villain to really give Luffy a run for his money, and it was quite enjoyable to watch. I like arcs that don't take place on a normal island because it's not often we see that. This arc was memorable and entertaining. This isn't much of an arc. The Straw Hats just go back to Water 7 after Enies Lobby. But a couple things happen. We meet Garp, Luffy's grandfather, and of course, learn Dragon is Luffy's dad. Frankie builds the Thousand Sunny and joins the Straw Hats. I really like pre-time skip Frankie. I know he wasn't in the series that much, but there was just something different about seeing him before, aside from his appearance. This is the first arc after the Straw Hats split up during the Summit War. Boa Hancock is pretty cool, the island is pretty funny, and Luffy's penis is stretchy. This arc is complete fan service, seeing so many past characters. I really liked it. Even though we don't actually see any of the actual Reverie events, a lot happens. This marks a big moment in One Piece, with so many reveals like Imu, the big Straw Hat, Rocks, and seeing more of Sabo and the Revolutionary Army is great. The war against the Celestial Dragons, oh my god, it's too much. I've come to like this arc a lot more than I used to, because looking back, I really like the stuff with Bellamy and Blackbeard's introduction. Luffy and Zoro refusing to fight Bellamy was a powerful scene. It showed the depth of their character in the world of One Piece. And of course, the introduction of the main villain of the series, Blackbeard. His speech about dreams is very similar to Luffy's own beliefs, making him that much more important to the story. It's a very impressive way to introduce such an important character. Similar to Fishman Island, this is one of the weaker saga arcs. Unlike Fishman Island, it's a lot better. I really like the spooky, scary setting of the island. I like Brook a lot, and I like a few of the characters like Absalom and Perona. I like the Oars fight and Blue Luffy. I didn't much care for the rest of the arc, especially Gecko Moria. I really don't like him at all. I like his devil fruit, but him as a character, was not very good. After catching up with Wano, this arc got bumped up a decent amount. The Raizo's here moment was neat at first, but after learning the context, goddamn was it good. I like the dog and cat guys, and Jack and the beast pirates, and the build up for Wano, and of course the Elephant Island itself. The only good filler arc, and what an arc this is. This arc is cool. The Straw Hats need to escape a marine facility Metal Gear Solid style. This arc is better than half the canon arcs. It's so good. Jonathan was a really cool character that actually was a threat to the Straw Hats. And the arc is funny too. The arc leading up to the big summit war. Oh man, the anticipation. This arc is great. Luffy breaks in and out of the biggest prison in the world, Impel Down. The arc introduces some important characters like Jinbei and Ivankov. Jinbei is one of my favorite non-Straw Hat characters. He has been ever since this arc. Ivankov isn't one of my favorites, but I still think he adds a lot to the story. Plus he saves Luffy's life when he nearly dies. Magellan is a great villain, far from my favorite character-wise, but as a villain he's incredibly strong. One of the few to none other villains to be undefeated. His poison ability is incredibly powerful, and if he didn't spend 10 hours a day on the toilet from eating his own poison, he'd be god tier. He not only almost kills Luffy like I said, he stops Blackbeard when he breaks into Impel Down too. And the cherry on the cake, previous characters return like Buggy, who I always enjoy seeing, and Crocodile, one of my favorite villains in the series. Recently, I've seen this arc get shat on a lot, but I think it's a really good arc. I'll say half of it, not much happens. We barely get to see any of Skypiea itself, and the fight with Enil is underwhelming. Enil is a great villain though. I love his design and his ability. I really like lightning users. Plus, the guy is a god, or acts like one. He's also interesting because he's the only One Piece main villain that is not associated with the Marines or world government, nor in a pirate crew. He just wants to be God and rule over One Piece. You could say this arc adds little and doesn't move this story, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a good arc. But, much like CP9, Enil and his guys use Haki. And at this point, we are far from knowing what Haki is. You gotta say the first use of Haki is quite important, and it's just really cool. The first great arc in the New World. I really like the location of Punk Hazard. The icy and fiery island is so cool looking. Plus the backstory with the Aokiji Akainu fight is really cool. The laboratory is really cool, the Vagabond mystery and the introduction of Kinemon are great. Caesar is a very unique villain. He is a definite breath of fresh air. Not being a massive big bad like Doflamingo, Big Mom, or Kaido, who are all great villains, but it's nice to have someone different for a change. A villain who is taken down in one hit. A less antagonized villain, and of course, one that was used to help the Straw Hats later down the line. After the biggest moment in all of One Piece, Post-War does a great job at concluding the events of all of pre-time skip. Seeing Luffy after his brother died was heartbreaking. This is a major and emotional moment for Luffy and all the Straw Hats, so knowing they won't see each other for 2 years is really sad. As to respect Ace's last wish, Jinbei looks after Luffy and makes sure he's okay. I love Jinbei's character and his relationship with Luffy, and in this arc we see it flourish. And of course the backstory with Luffy, Ace, and Sabo was great. It fleshed out their relationship much more, since Ace has a total of 10 minutes of screen time in the series. I really enjoyed seeing more backstory with Luffy and his brothers, and Garp. Man, oh man, the first great One Piece arc. This is when me and a lot of other people realized One Piece is definitely something special. This is now a series with weight and depth. Nami's backstory is great and the best of the early Straw Hats. Arlong was the best villain at the time and proved to be a definite threat. And the "of course I will" scene is excellent and still gives me chills. Luffy giving his most prized possession, his hat, to Nami, then fighting Arlong is great, and the scene of the Straw Hats walking toward Arlong is so good. Arlong was the first in the series of many steps that made One Piece into the excellent series it is today. This arc is a wild ride. So much happens and so much changed in this arc. The world is a cruel place with forces beyond the characters' imaginations. It's like a whole new world opened up in this arc. Well, it was the last island in the Grand Line, so it really did. We learned about Kuma and the Celestial Dragons and Haki, and oh man, so much happened. It's like the world of One Piece really blossomed here. I hate that this arc is so good. Whole Cake is such a stupid and goofy island, and Big Mom is so ugly. But this arc is great. The best part of this arc is Sanji's backstory. His full backstory, learning about Germa, his siblings, and his secret powers. Sanji's supposed to be married to a daughter of Big Mom's, and the Straw Hats ruin the wedding. This arc has some of the best Sanji moments in the series, and of course, Sanji's my favorite character. Big Mom is the first Emperor villain, and she definitely feels like one. So much so that she isn't even defeated in this arc. But unlike Magellan, she isn't the main villain of the arc. It's her second son, Katakuri. Katakuri is a great villain. His fight with Luffy is awesome. He's been Luffy's strongest adversary thus far. Big Mom still plays a big role, and after the wedding, she chases the Straw Hats off the island. I really like this part because it's one of the few times that we're not on an island, we're on the sea. And Big Mom being such a big threat, the Straw Hats are on their toes the entire time. The newest and Grand Piece arc in One Piece. Honestly, most of this arc was just good for me, not anything super special. I liked it, but it was too bloated. Way too long with way too many characters and not enough important stuff going on. I really like the build-up for this arc though. We had things going on in preparation since Punk Hazard. That was years ago, hundreds of chapters and episodes ago, with little things falling into place arc by arc. I really like that. There were a few great moments here and there, but it wasn't until the last quarter of the arc where things got really great. The fights were spectacular, a lot of lore and important stuff, and great character moments all from that last quarter. The Luffy, Law, and Kid dynamic was awesome. I love seeing them fight Kaido and Big Mom. One of the few times we saw other characters fight the main villain. And of course, Law and Kid's fight with Big Mom. And Zoro and Sanji versus King and Queen was great. The end of Wano is filled with so much. Year 5th and the reveal of Luffy's Devil Fruit origins was amazing. Plus, more things are going on in the world. With the dissolution of the 7 warlords and the events of Reverie, this part is jam-packed with One Piece goodness. It feels like it's been so long since this arc, and it's still one of my favorites. Much like Wano, there was a lot of build-up for this arc since the saga started, and this arc definitely paid off. The country was great, and I loved seeing the different locations and city in Alabasta. It felt more like a fleshed out country than any place we've seen before. I liked most of the characters and the events going on. I liked the idea of the Civil War and this underground group pulling the strings for their eventual takeover. I just really like this arc. It does a lot of things right. I love Crocodile, he was such a great villain. He defeated Luffy twice. Each fight was great and impactful, and the eventual takedown of Crocodile was superb. And the other Straw Hats got great fights of their own too. Something we don't see done as much today, and not done as well. This is the first big step One Piece took after Arlong Park that made One Piece one of my favorites. Dressrosa is hella underrated. This arc is so good. The country was great, the backstory was the best in the entire series. The country and the Riku family backstory was great, but the Law, Doflamingo, and Rosinante backstory was heartbreaking. Made those three some of the best characters in the entire series. Law gets his time to shine, Rebecca and her family are great, Doflamingo is arguably the best villain in One Piece, and such a complex one. He is evil, quite so, but a tragic evil. The birdcage was so fucking cool. I really love Dofi's string ability and how he uses it. He was always an interesting character from his introduction. I always thought he had some sort of telekinetic ability, but what he actually had was so much cooler. I'll admit the arc was too long at times, but it wasn't until the second half that it got really great. But I'd still enjoy the first half of the arc more than the first 3/4 of Wano. Plus at times it was hard to take things seriously with the toys and the dwarves, but Sugar's Fruit was so cool and scary, and it wasn't as goofy as Whole Cake. You can't really talk about one of these arcs without talking about the other one, but here's the first one. Water 7. Holy shit, this is good. This is a top tier One Piece arc. Water 7 is an emotional roller coaster. There's a group of people after Robin and she leaves the Straw Hats. The Going Merry is on its last legs, and because of that, Usopp has an emotional fight with Luffy and leaves the Straw Hats. There is a big mystery going on in Water 7. There is an assassination attempt on the mayor, the mysterious group, the blueprints for Pluton, the major hurricane happening, and Frankie. There's so much going on. It's all drama and build-up, with very little action and fighting, but when there is, it's still amazing. Water 7 has some of the best characters in One Piece. I really like the shipwrights, Frankie, and Iceberg, and the backstory was great with Tom and the Sea Train. It was all excellent. The next arc, the payoff to all of Water 7's build-up, Enies Lobby. What an arc. All action, all fighting, all perfect. This is an important arc. The Straw Hats raid on the world government facility, breaking out a highly wanted criminal who is also a member of their crew and declaring war on the world government. Robin is a great character, and her declaring she wants to live was an amazing moment. The Going Merry send-off was incredibly sad. This scene over a boat is much sadder than many character death scenes in One Piece and many other deaths in other series, honestly. CP9 is awesome. Rob Lucci is a great villain. I really wish we had more time to see his personality. He is awesome, but we really don't know much about him. Kaku is also one of my favorites, and his giraffe ability is funny. All the members get great fight scenes with the Straw Hats, especially Luffy versus Lucci, one of the best fights in One Piece. Gear 2nd and 3rd are great. Enies Lobby really progresses the story while adding so much. The greatest One Piece arc, the magnum opus, Marineford, the big summit, paramount war between the pirates and the navy, the emotional journey to free Ace from his execution. This arc has so many great moments for all the characters involved. Luffy, Jinbei, Ivankov, Crocodile, Buggy, so many great characters, new and old. Plus you see so many more, like the warlords and the admirals, who I wish actually did more instead of just sitting around watching. And of course, Whitebeard and his crew. The fights were amazing and emotional, so many characters were important instead of just Luffy. It was great seeing Whitebeard, this 72-year-old pirate veteran, back up Luffy, a new pirate with a crew of 9. The entire arc is a hype fest, but a dramatic one with serious weight. Of course with Luffy and Ace, but Garp as well. After seeing Garp for the first time in Post-Enies Lobby, I thought he was a big dickhead, but I was wrong. He is a loving grandfather who deeply cares for his grandsons. Ace is not even his biological grandson, but he shows he treats Ace like his own. I really would have loved to see more of Ace. He is a great character. The moment Ace is freed was an excellent scene, and I really wish you saw more of Ace and Luffy fighting side by side. But Ace's death, by far the saddest and most impactful moment in all of One Piece. One of the saddest deaths in any anime. But what was sadder than Ace's death was Luffy's reaction to it. Marineford is a top tier arc in this top tier series. I really hope the future arcs in One Piece could match this arc and be even better. So that's the list. As you know, One Piece is still ongoing and will be for quite some time. I will eventually make a follow-up ranking with all of the One Piece arcs once it is finished. I apologize for not making any videos for so long. I've been lazy. I'd like to make more reviews, but probably more like combined reviews or ranking videos like this. We'll see. Fuck you.